talking with heavy hitters who've earned their spot at the top, like our next guest, who's literally a heavy hitter. She is widely considered one of the most formidable and impactful athletes in sports history. UFC and WWE legend Ronda Rousey is in the house. Here's the deal. The mixed martial arts pioneer first rose to stardom inside the octagon as the most feared woman in UFC history. Then inside the ring as a dominant force in pro wrestling, and eventually on the big screen, starring in blockbusters like Furious 7 and The Expendables 3. Now the trailblazing champion is making headlines once again with her raw and unfiltered new memoir. It's called Our Fight, setting the record straight about leaving the sport and opening up about everything from mental health to marriage to motherhood. Please welcome the legend, Ronda Rousey! Congratulations on this.
Thank you.
Congratulations on this. I gotta tell you, you know, so many people have thought they've written your story. They thought they've told your story. They thought they had a right to speak for you. I love that you are speaking for yourself and you're not holding anything back. Why did you know, or how did you know this was the time? Because this could have come at different points, but now is really important.
Actually, I couldn't have released this at any other time because of my concussion history that I've really gone into in my early judo career. I probably for better part of 10 years, I've had concussion symptoms more often than not. And that was just before all this research about CTE and all these things had come out. And so when I got into MMA, I couldn't, like any kind of significant strike would make me see stars, give me concussion symptoms, and it started getting worse and worse the more my career progressed. I had short matches that were less than a minute, but I put 50 rounds of sparring into every match. And so it started to get that lighter and lighter hits were, you know, giving me concussion symptoms until it finally got to a point where the smallest touch, you know, would put me out. So I couldn't, as a fighter, let anyone know that. And then if it going into WWE, they might not have hired me. Then it might not have let me perform if they knew how often I was getting concussions. So I couldn't say any of it till now.
You could not until now. How are you now?
I'm fine.
Yeah?
I was saying, I was really worried for a while. Like every time I lost my phone, I would cry and be like, you know, to my husband, "It's coming for me. It's the beginning of the end." But I've had all kinds of brain scans and everything, and they can't find anything wrong yet. So, you know, fingers crossed, doing okay.
I have to tell you, throughout your journey, people have loved calling you an overnight success, and I love that you talk about it in the book. You said, overnight is what they call it when no one has been paying attention to the decades of time and effort you put into perfecting a craft. That might be one of my favorite passages in this, because people do like to think, oh, now I know who you are, so you're overnight. Mm-hmm. You had been putting in the work. What was the dream when you first started? What was the best case scenario you thought would happen here?
I mean, I started out as 6 years old thinking I was going to win the Olympics in swimming, and then switched to judo when I was 10, and I was like, okay, I'm going to win the Olympics in this now. People don't even mention that I did judo anymore, which I'm a world Olympic medalist in judo. I would spend more time on that art than most people do on a PhD.
Is that because you were, I mean, you, as I said, a pioneer, you were the blueprint. And so it becomes, I think, easy for some people to not forget, but the big shining moment was, as I said, the most dominant woman ever to exist in that sport.
Thank you.
And I think that's why, I mean, listen, you talked in the beginning of our interview about hiding the pain. You write about it in the book as well. You said you became an expert at hiding the pain, and you reveal that for the 10 years you were experiencing those concussions. And I go back to that fight in 2015, and people second guessing and wondering what was going on with you during the fight with Holly Holm. And I think it's powerful that you decided to really reveal so much about what was lost and what was going on. You had this quote, you said, "I had lost, but it wasn't just that I'd lost. I was still in my body, stuck here in some kind of state between hell and living. Dying would have meant all of this was over. Dying would have felt better than this." You're dealing with all of this physical pain, and now you have the mental challenges and all of the horrors that come with the pressure cooker you were in. and the critics that came after, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, in that match, a lot of people, they didn't have the context to put it in, but I watched that and I see, you know, a neurological injury decades in the making. And I couldn't speak out about it. So everyone was just, you know, making up their own reasons for that, you know, I was outclassed, that I was just all hype and everything that I'd ever done meant nothing. And I couldn't speak, I couldn't say anything about it. And so, I mean, I just felt so misunderstood, and I felt like everybody was happier believing what they wanted to believe.
I felt that way too, I'll be honest with you. I felt that you were such a strong force, such a strong woman. There were people who regaled in the loss. And so to hear you now tell the story, but also to see now you're married, your husband Travis, your beautiful 2-year-old daughter, that you have not only got a chance to tell your story, you've been able to show this side of you.
Yeah. Yeah, she's the best. Like, I mean, I say my husband's the best thing that ever happened to me because he gave me my daughter and my family and everything like that. But yeah, she's the light of my life. Her name actually means light.
La Kea means light. When you were writing this book, did you imagine her one day reading it?
Yeah, I feel like I wasn't really writing it thinking like, oh, this is for Poe, but I mean, everything that I write, you know, is for my kids and everything like that. Like my mom, just as a hobby, writes fantasy novels, and she doesn't publish them, but I love to read them because it's such a great insight into her. And I read it, I'm like, oh my God, this is so Mom.
Right, and so now you have a chance for your child to have an insight into you.
Yeah.
What do you want on this next chapter?
Right now, me and my husband are actually running a regenerative Wagyu and poultry ranch, and it's one I feel like the most scalable solution to climate change, and you know, mimicking natural processes with our animals to sequester carbon. And yeah, that's Porter. He was my favorite. But just using our animals to take land that was degraded and like rehabilitate it and make it into an ecosystem, and just watching something become better because we had our hands in it, and it's something that's validating in itself, which is so much better than looking for that outside validation.
I don't think I've ever I don't often ask this question, but I am curious because it's you. What do you want your legacy to be? And I never really ask people that question. That's a big question. What do you want your legacy to be?
Oh, legacy, I guess, is what everybody else thinks of what I did, huh? Well, my legacy to myself is that I'm the greatest fighter that ever lived, but but everybody else will have their own opinion, so I don't know.
But I said, what is your legacy to you? We don't care what they think. You are the greatest fighter that ever lived. Give it up, Ronda. Our fight available now. Tam fam, guess what? The greatest fighter that ever lived is gifting you something. You're all going home with a copy